Yeah. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining for this webinar. We have got a tremendous response to this webinar. We have got about 75 people registered to this webinar. That means the topic of secret to optimizing the sales process and pipeline is a very, very important topic to all of us. Just a quick check on technicalities. Are you able to see the screen? Are you able to hear my voice? Please go to your chat box and put your name and just say yes. That would help me to align everything on this. Just take a 1 second and say, put your chat box and say hello. Yeah. Great. So let's get going. First of all, I'm Krishna. I have my partner Prashant along with me. Prashant, could you say hi to this?
Hello. Yeah, yes, I'm also on the call. So thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you. So we both represent for Growth Aspire. What do? We do training, coaching, and consulting, predominantly in B2B and B2C business. Our focus is on two things. One is to increase the effectiveness, and another one is to increase the efficiency. How do we do this? We give tools, we give framework, we give skill, and we help them to implement as well. We have worked with a wide range of the industries. Our end game or the end result, what we want to do is to provide the result for both individuals and the organizations. Couple of things about this webinar. One is at some regular interval, we'll have some question and answer session. You can put your question onto the chat box. We will answer at the regular interval. And at the end of it also, we have got some question and answer session on this. We want you to leave the feedback at the end of this. Okay? Good. If you look at this today in January, what we are looking at, either all of us who are here are either at the last quarter of the year, that's about 2019 to 20, or if you're a calendar year, that means you're starting of the year at 2020 or 21. All of us work for one thing, that's about targets, that's about numbers. How are you, if you ask yourself or your team members who are there, how do you achieve this? What is the process of achieving? I think a lot of people would throw their blank, and even if they have a process, it is very difficult for them to articulate what is that they are going to do in the next 30 days, next 60 days, or 90 days, or even 180 days, or 365 days to achieve those numbers. And that's why this session, what we are going to do is some outcome of this session. One is to define and understand the sales process and sales pipeline. We'll also discuss about what is the sales process and what is the sales methodology which is there. And how do you optimize the sales pipeline is something that we do. What are the 5 things that you need to do to optimize your sales pipeline? At the end, we will also look into 5 metrics that you need to track if you want to become successful in doing this, achieving your targets. Okay, good. Now, defining sales process in a pipeline, the first one, why process? I think all of us know that the process is something that we do, but it is important because if we can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. This is said by Edward Deming. He was an American philosopher, economist, and all that. He said, if you can't describe what you're doing as a process, you don't know what you're doing. It is like this. You stand in a bus stand and say, you can't say to bus and they say, wherever you're going, you can go. No. But what is important is to see that where you want to go, what is the process that you do. That is what is very important. And why process is important is it helps you to become very systematic approach. Now you might say, what is the process? There are wonderful definitions which are there, but let's just stick to what is our sales process. In sales, it is a series of actions or a step that is taken to achieve a sale or to achieve a target. In simple words, what are the 1, 2, 3 actions or the steps that you take to achieve a sale or a close of sales and achieve the targets there. Now, I'm sure what's the problem? The problem is that if you don't have a process, if you don't have a step-by-step approach, there are a lot of chances that you miss something which is very important and very high. And that becomes a problem. And then you revert back at the end and see, where did I miss this step or something? And that is the challenge which is there if you don't have a process. Okay? Now, I'm sure there are two things that we all get a little worried on. Two things. One is the sales process, and another one is the sales method. Let's understand this. Sales process, as I said, is a concrete set of actions that you and your sales team follow to close a sale. That means you're taking step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4 to achieve that sale. At the end, you should be able to close the sales or achieve the target. But what is the sales method? It is a framework for how your sales process is to be carried out and how it will help you in your business to grow. So there is a clear difference between the process about the steps. Method is the framework that you apply to do this. I'll give you an explanation of this in the next slide, where we talk about, if you look at the sales process, it's about a simple process we all know in sales. There is the prospect who generates an inquiry, where you generate an inquiry, you understand the need, you make a presentation, you make a negotiation, you get into negotiation, and you close the sales, and then there is some follow-up action which is there. This is about what are the steps that you do in a sales process. But what is the methodology? Is there are various methodologies and various names which is given to do your selling, like solution selling, consultative selling, challenger selling, need selling, value selling, and insight selling and all that. It depends on what product you are selling and how you are selling this product. What is the methodology that you do? Because what makes you to use appropriate methodology, which is inbuilt in the process. Say, for example, if you are selling a very high technology product where the customer doesn't know many things about the product or something, then possibly you might use insight selling, which is there, where you give a deep and accurate understanding of his business, his problem, his challenges, and make him realize, and that gets into the insight selling. But if the customer is very clear, he has very clear understanding of what he needs, and he clearly specifies that this is what it is required, then you can get into the need selling there. So that's the difference between the sales process and the sales methodology that you do in this. Now, if you look at this, that's why I would say, what is the foundation for the entire sales cycle? I would say it's the sales process is like a foundation to the entire sales cycle. If you know what is the appropriate step that you define, that you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which will help you to achieve your end goal, that is the foundation for entire sales, and then you can integrate the sales methodology into this. Now let's look at the sales process, which is established already. Okay, if you are an organization which is established already, and there is a good amount of sales which is happening, then the one best methodology is to do very simple, that is, look at all the 10 sales that you and your company has done in the last, whatever, 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is there. Now, what you look at all these 10 sales and look at list of activities that is required for doing for this kind of sales. You list whatever they have done. It could be minor part which is there, but you list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 that you list like this. And then what you need to do is to create a group that relate to each other. You might have 20 activities which is done, but then you divide into 4 or 5 groups of this and then subgroups. It will help you to do that. So how do you do this? Let me give you one example. Say, for example, if you look at it, inquiry received, appointment date is fixed, and then you met the customer and built the rapport, understanding of the requirement, presenting the solution, gave a demonstration, handling objections and resistance, both technical and non-technical. Then you sent a proposal, then negotiation, closing and delivering follow-up is one process for any of the sales which is there. But then you try to see what is the importance of this and make a subgroup. Received and department date is fixed can be one subgroup. Rapport and understanding of the requirement can be subgroup. And presenting, demonstration, handling objection can be one more group. And sending proposal and negotiation can be one more group. That is how you make a subgroup, which will help you to define simple 4-step, 5-step, or max 6 steps that you do, and inbuilt you define the process of this. Now let's look at the next action, what we do. Once you do this, what is the next one? What is very, very important? Whatever you do, your sales process, the most important thing what you need to do is to understand the buyer's journey there. What do you mean by a buyer's journey? Today, I'm sure there are a lot of technology, there are a lot of things which are happening in the buyer's part. What is the one biggest change which we see today is on the buyer's part is that there is a digital maturity which has happened across the industry. Even in B2B industry and services, we find that before the customer is able to reach out to you, he would have done some kind of a research before. More than 80% of the customers do some kind of a research before they get into interaction with the salesperson. Then you can definitely make some kind of modification in the sales process, saying that not from the inquiry that I do, but even lead generation activity which I do can be one of the process that you can do that. And that's what I say is, if there is no need of the product, then you can go into insight selling. If there is a need already established, then you can get into lead selling. If the problem is not there, then you can get into consultation selling on them. Whatever you do, it is important to understand where is the customer in the buying journey and what is the process that we do on this. Okay, and that is what we talked so far about the process. But one thing, please remember, there is no process which is a perfect process. Okay, it keeps on improvising, it keeps on fine-tuning. Once you do the process, what is important is to commit to that process for some time and reflect back once again and see where is the steps which we need to improve on that. And that's why I would say keep on fine-tuning, keep on modifying, keep on doing the refinement into that, and that's a continuous process which will happen. Okay, at the moment what we talked is only about one part, that is about the sales process and the sales methodology. As we go into the next one, please remember one thing, always whatever you do, whatever the process you set, as Stephen Covey said, begin the end in the mind. What is that you want to achieve out of this? What is the accomplishment that you want to do out of this? And then define the process for doing everything, and that will help you to do that. So what we'll do is, at the moment before we get into the sales pipeline, I would be happy if you have any questions at the moment, then we would be able to see and respond to you for a couple of minutes, and then we'll see how we can go ahead on the next one. Any questions at the moment on the sales methodology or the sales process? How do you define? Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Issues will continue on this. If there are questions, please put it. We'll see and respond to it. Otherwise, let's, what we defined so far is about why sales process is important, what is sales process, and what are the differences between sales process and sales methodology. How do you define your sales process? And what is that you need to keep? One thing in mind, that is understanding the buyer's process, and the perspective is what we said. Now let's move into the next stage, is about once you define a process, there is one important thing that all organization talks about, is about the sales pipeline. What is the sales pipeline we are talking about? The sales pipeline is nothing but, sales pipeline is done basically because of two things. One is what is called as repeatability and measurable. What is that? What do you mean by repeatability? if your sales process, can it help in repeating the sales success to you and your organization? If somebody has got a sales success, if we repeat the sales process, can we repeat the sales success for you and your organization? That is one thing which will help you to analyze when you put the process there. The second one of the pipeline is basically because sales pipeline gives you the measurability of that success. It gives you how to measure that success, how we are moving from one stage to another stage. It gives you the success of that. That's why pipeline is done basically because of two reasons. One is to see the repeatability, and the second one is to see the measurable. Yeah. Now, as I said, once you define the entire process, make it into subgroups. Say, for example, as I said today, you can add one more as prospecting, and second step is connecting, third one is meeting, fourth one is presentation, negotiation, and win and close. Like this, you can make a 6 parts, and each of these parts you can make 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3 as sub parts or a sub process which is required for all of these. For example, when you meet, what is that you need to do? Understand the customer requirement, meeting the decision maker, and qualifying the prospect. When you make a presentation, sharing the customer specific proposal, demonstration, objection cleared, all these. One important parameter that is that we want to make a present, we want to connect, we want to negotiate, we want to win close. But what is that we are not taking is what is that the customer is doing from his side, which will actually help us to decide whether we should move to the next stage or we should remain there. So most important thing is define certain action by the customer that will take it to the next stage. Or you can also say, what are the exit criteria at each stage? What do you mean by that? For example, when you say connecting, if the meeting date is not finalized by the customer, that means he can't go to the next stage, which is there. In fact, if the meeting date is not finalized, even after receiving the inquiry for a month or something, I think it should be exit criteria that you should have. In the same way, once you meet the customer, if the customer only asks you a lot of questions and he doesn't give you any information, and that's why we say meeting date is finalized and he gives you all information and then say, I want the proposal or I want a demo date is fixed, that means that there is a traction which is going to happen to the customer on the next stage. In the same way, exit criteria is what? If you do a meeting and then there is no interaction for 3 months, 4 months or something, whatever reason it is there, I think you can exit him from the platform, pipeline, and then bring it up later. But the idea is that define the action by the customer that will take it to the next stage and use the exit criteria at each stage. And that's how I would say on the top, what we have written is the exit criteria there. Now let's look at the next one. Why this pipeline? Why this pipeline people wanted to have? All organizations today invest a lot of money on developing a CRM or a pipeline or something, but why pipeline? In sales, it's very clear, we will encounter rejection more than a success. Why this happens? What is the reason? That we can look at later. But what is important with the pipeline is it remains optimistic by understanding why some leads did not work or why some leads worked in your favor. That will help you to analyze. And that's why most of the organizations do a pipeline basically because no one likes surprises in the year, right? I'm sure if you ask me what is the one reason of pipeline, because nobody wants to get surprises. Because everybody is impacted with a number, there is a production which might happen, there is a plan which has to happen. Whole organization depends upon what is the future predictability which is going to happen. At the year end, if you give surprises, then it becomes a bounce back and it has an impact on many things. So the two reasons why any organization defines a pipeline is because one, it wants to predict the future about the organization in a nice way. And the second one is it also helps to predict which sales representative is able to contribute and which sales representative is lagging behind which salesperson is contributing. And that's why there are 3 goals for any pipeline management by you and your organization. The first, get the access to the real data. That means you're able to get the access to the real data, which will help you, which will definitely help you getting access to the accuracy part of it. And the next part is data customer find, okay, what is happening at each stage, and what is the data which you are able to interpret and take some actions. And that's why it is deriving of insights. See, there are plenty of data available with any CRM software or whatever it is there, but what do you data with? Data is only a fact. I would even say data is about a dead fact. It is over. But what do you derive out of the data? What do you interpret out of the data is what we talk about, deriving of the insights there. Once you draw the insights, what are the steps that you take which will help you and your team to move forward in that direction? Right? That's where I talk about, that's where I deriving of the insights and taking of the actions there. Now, let's look at, this is a simple pipeline. Sample pipeline management, you get some 1,000 leads and you get some prospect about 100 and then they become a customer or something. This is a sample pipeline that you see here. But how do you, that is what we looked into through two things. One is what is pipeline? We looked into why the organization look at the pipeline. And then we also looked into what is the benefit of the pipeline. But now the biggest question for all of us who are sitting here is basically, how do you assess each of your pipeline and how do you optimize this pipeline? See, once you analyze the data, once you derive the insights, and once you need to take action, but how do you assess this? There are 5 questions that you need to ask on this. The first one is your pipeline accessible and up to date? What do you mean by accessible and up to date? The first thing is it accurate? Now, when you say accuracy, it has many questions, whatever it is there. How do you define accuracy and all that? But the first one, what you need to do is a healthy pipeline is ensuring that the information shared in the pipeline is accurate. This will help you to decide what are the actions that you need to take at each stage. If the pipeline information, what you have provided, is not an accurate information, I think the entire planning will go wrong on this. It will help you to decide what is the tactical actions that you can take to move to the next stage which is there. And then we talk about what is the next say is one is the accuracy of the data. The next one, what is important is what is the shape of your you got some leads to the end. I think it boiled down to a very small number on this. Okay, that's one part of the pipeline, one shape of the pipeline. And the another shape of pipeline is what? You got the lead, but then you interacted with somebody and the discussion started and the presentation has happened, but nothing is moved in that. That means what? There are some pipeline where there are some customers who are stuck in this. Now, if you ask me whether the pipeline should be in a funnel shape or whether pipeline should be another one, I would say the pipeline should be in a cocktail glass shape. What I mean by cocktail glass shape is if you look at the funnel shape, what you're saying is you've got so much of leads there, but all these leads will boil down to one and finally one or two get converted. Now, when you look at the cocktail, the leads are generated, but then what happens is you qualify the lead. Once you qualify the lead, it is our responsibility to see that each step that what you take, do systematically go to the each step and see that the closure happens more and more on that. And that's why you need to decide upon what is the size and what is the shape of this shape of the pipeline that you would like to have is what you need to decide on that. So as I said, the first one is how accurate is your pipeline. And the second one is the shape and size of your pipeline. And the third thing what we are talking about is your pipeline stuck? If you think about if you look at one more question that you need to ask is your pipeline moving? We all know in sales, if the customer at some stage says that I am not interested in buying your product, or at one stage the customer says he has gone to some of the competition, I think we have no doubt in removing him from the pipeline. That we all do. But the problem is what? There are so many customers, they show a lot of enthusiasm at the beginning. They say, we want to buy the product tomorrow or day after tomorrow, whatever it is there. But once you send the proposal, it gets stuck. It is not moving. Now, this is uncertainty. What do I do with this customer? Should I keep it in the pipeline or should I not keep it in the pipeline? Meeting has happened, we have not made a presentation on the next one. So should I keep him or should I not keep him? I think one simple method that you all can decide is very, very simple method, that you should have something called the exit criteria for whatever it is there. What is the meaning of exit criteria? Any customer is there, you look at the average sales cycle of yours and decide upon how long the customer has to be there in the pipeline. I'm sure if your average sales cycle is about 45 days, you can max keep about 60 days or 65 days in the pipeline. But once it is 65 days is over, you remove him from the pipeline, so it gives you a clear picture. Again, you can bring it back if you want later. But the point is that don't keep him just like that at one stage, and that will give you very unpredictable information and surprises will be thrown upon that. So that's the third one. One is, what do you do when you get stuck or when you don't progress on this? And the fourth one, do you have enough prospects at each stage of your pipeline? I think the most important factor to optimize your pipeline is to check, do you have enough prospect at each stage of your pipeline? In fact, this is the most critical question, and it will measure both the current and the future. All of us as salespeople, we have a tendency to put a lot of focus on the closing of the sales. Those who are at the negotiation stage, we want to push hard, we want to go, we want to get close, all that. Look what happens when you too much focus on one part, you would have missed out on the other part. That means that somewhere our efforts and activities did not go. And if you don't create enough time on the lead generation activity, or if you are not creating enough enough opportunity to meet the customer and bring it to the next stage, then your future will become very, very difficult. My only request to all of you is, it's important to check, do I have enough prospect at each stage, or am I concentrating too much on one stage? There are some people who might concentrate too much at the lead generation, but they are not good in closes. It will also help you to identify what skill and what areas that you need to do to develop about yourself. And the last but not the least, do you know which deals within your pipeline you need to focus on a short term, on a long term? I think this one is one more very, very critical, because if you don't know which deals to focus, your effort will go haywire. How do you define which deals to focus? It goes back to our first fundamental question in the first meeting. Is the deal or is the opportunity meets into the qualifying criteria what we have set in our organization? I'm sure you would have come to know many qualifying criteria, but the simple qualifying criteria is, what is there? Is there a time frame for the customer to make a decision? Yes, good. Is the decision maker met in that opportunity? Yes, good. Is the needs established very clearly? Good. Does the customer have a financial budget or a planning to make this purchase? If you have these 3-4 criteria with you, then you know you can focus. We have seen at many places. Recently, we had one very interesting example where we were focusing with one of the person and we were interacting with many things, but when we come to the presentation stage to the decision maker, the entire scope of work which got changed. I think we feel that it should have been better. We would have met the decision maker earlier, and then we would have not wasted so much of effort to make the planning part of it. Yes. And that is what the criteria. There are 5 things that you need to do. One is the accuracy, second one is the shape and size, and the third one is about what we are talking about. Third one is about the where do you struck, and the fourth one is do you have an S prospect at each stage, and the fifth one is do you know which deals in your pipeline you need to focus on this. So we take a break at this moment. I would be very happy if you have any questions at this stage, and then we would be able to take to the one more part about what is that you need to do about the 5 metrics which is there. Yes. Any questions, any thoughts at the moment? You can definitely share. Somebody has put a question saying that cold calling is also one of the sales process. Absolutely right. Okay. Nowadays, people are using LinkedIn as one which they want to use. Okay. And in LinkedIn also there is a process to generate inquiries. What we call it as first is to create a foundation, and then is to create a database, and then is to create a messaging system, and then get into inquiry or something. I would say the first is foundation, second one is to connect, third one is to create a database, and the fourth one is definitely is to messaging system. Okay. And only when you do that, then you get the inquiry or something. Once you get the inquiry, how do you do that is another process that what we discussed here. Okay. Yeah. Let's say somebody has put a speak request. Is that possible? Let me try. Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah. Somebody has put up one more question, Hitesh here. He says, is the solution selling process is different? I think it's important to understand what happens in the solution process. I mean, solution selling. In solution selling, both the seller and the buyer are not clear what is the solution which is going to come out at the end. Both are discussing about a problem, and then both of us are evolving about a solution. There is no standard product with him, but he is coming out and doing many things over a period of time. It involves a different mindset because you are addressing a solution not from the immediate point of view, but also looking at the future part of it. And that is why, yeah, that is why you would be able to do the solution selling. Mindset is both of us are not clear about what is the solution which is required. Okay, and somebody says, Gaurav Sharma, what is the easiest way to build rapport on the first telephone sales introduction? Okay, that's a good one. I would say, Gaurav, the first thing what is important is to do whom are you talking, and what is that? Whom are you talking? What is his designation? And again, go back to what we said about the prospect profile. If you know what is his role and responsibility, what is the pain point he has got, what is the gain point which he has got. Again, the moment you call, then you would be able to speak in his language. That will help you. Yeah, and Gaurav, this is your asked, but then we will definitely share you some content. How do you build rapport on the first telephone introduction? And we'll send you a note what common objections that you might get and how do we solve this. Good, let's move on to this. What we have seen so far is about the sales process, and we looked into the sales process and methodology. We looked into sales pipeline and what are the 5 things that you need to do to measure optimize the pipeline. Let's look at the next stage. How do I manage my pipeline? That's the biggest question that all of us have. See, ultimately, everybody wants the numbers, But how do I manage the pipeline? If you look at it, there are a lot of CRM companies, CRM software solutions promises very high, big things: 300% improvement in lead conversion, 24% decrease in sales cycle, 23% decrease in sales and marketing cost. All this is big promise that they keep. Yes, it could have happened to some companies, but the reality is that 69% of the CRM project fail or don't give the desired result. We did a lot of research to find out what is the reason for this kind of a disaster with many of the sales teams, why they don't like this particular thing. It's basically because three common reasons why CR implementation fails is there is a too much of entry or a data compliance requirements that the CRM software asks. And there are some sales representative who have come and said, "Do you want me to keep updating your software, or do you want me to be in front of the customer?" I think there are so much of parameters that you put 50 things to fill up, 40 things to fill up. Nothing is going to work on that, and that's why salespeople want simple. Salespeople want why this is important to me. And second one is that most of the sales force don't know how the CRM helps. In fact, some of these representatives called us and said, "Boss, the CRM is going to give our freedom to the management. They're going to ask us 100 questions. How do I answer all these questions?" And that's where the CRM implementation becomes very poor, and they cook up something and finally they fill up some data which is there, and that's the reason which is there. And third one is, okay, I have given you data, I have given you fact, I have given you all the entry which is there. What is that we are able to derive the insights out of this? How this is going to help me? It is everything for the organization? No, I would definitely see these are three reasons why most of the CRM implementation fails. Too much of data, most sales force don't know how it helps, and the third thing is lack of knowledge to derive the insights there. Now, you might say, what is the four levers that will help you to increase any sales? There are many methods that you can do, but what is important today, if you are doing a very high-end sales or something, I think it's important to have more qualified leads for you. Okay, that's very important for you. First one, do I have more qualified leads? And second one is, if you're doing a sales but your ticket size is not big, and you're doing a sales but it is a very small size, and then you need to focus on, can I focus on getting bigger deals there? So first one is more qualified leads, second one is bigger deals, and the whole idea of this entire CRM system, pipeline, whatever data which you do, can it help you to shorten the sales cycle? Can you look at where is that one step which I can reduce? Or where is that one optimization which I can do? What is that I can do which will help you to shorten the sales cycle? That is what is there. And the fourth one is what is important is, ultimately, are you increasing your conversion rate? Today, there are some companies which they say their conversion rate is 5%. Okay, which means that in fact, one of the company we were talking, they said 3,000 leads and their conversion is only 5%. But of course, it's a big ticket, whatever it is there. But then how do you increase this conversion rate is there? So there are four things that you need to focus: more qualified lead, bigger deals, shortening of the sales cycle, and increase the conversion rates on that. Okay, there are some companies which have a different software or something, CRM software, but if you don't have a CRM software or something, don't worry. What you do is very simple: create a Excel sheet and keep the dashboards, and it should be visually represented. What do you mean by visually represented? See, we have put all this Excel sheet, we have converted into graph, sales, static chart, okay, prospect, and this is the net leads aggregate, whatever it is there, these are dashboards. We created this for one of the organization. So they are able to, they started their sales cycle, and that's how they're able to do this. So one is to create a dashboard which will help you to take appropriate actions to move forward in the pipeline. That's a very simple. And then we talk about the last one, that is about what is the sales metric to focus. Most of the organization, if you get into the boardroom or if you get into the meeting, there are two things that they talk. There are one thing that they talk about: what is the number you're going to get? Okay, how are you going to achieve? How much is going to close? What is the number? How much percentage that you do? But this is what we call it as a result is what is the focus there. But whereas do we have to concentrate on the result or the activities? And that's where this question comes, saying that focus on the lead measure than the lag measures. What is the lag measure? Very simple, let's understand. It measures wildly important goal. That means what? I have a goal. That is a lag measure. But how do I achieve goal is about lead measure. Now, I want to reduce my weight. Let's say I'm 80 kg. I want to reduce it to 75 kg. And important thing which I have to do is on that. Now, what is a lead measure? Lead measure should have two parameters. It should be predictable. That means you are able to measure the leads which will help me to achieve my weight reduction. And the second one is something that I can influence. What is the meaning of this? One is calories that I take can be reduced, or the calories out by doing exercise can be influenced on this. So that's where we talked about this is the weight reduction is the goal, but how do you achieve, how do you predictable and influences by reducing on the calorie or by calorie out. Now this is the same thing can be applied in our sales as well, isn't it? Now I want to enroll 100 new clients by March 15, 2020. That means that's a lag measure. That's about 100 new customers that I have to do. Now for that I have also put one more. Talk to 300 decision maker, that's again a lag measure. And then we also talked about identifying and visit 5 clients per day. That is a lag measure again. Now, how do you do this is lead measure. That is measure how many repeat visits are made. How many repeats of visits are made to the customer is a lead measure. This I can influence. And measure time spent on talking to client is a lead measure. So result, I can't influence anything because it is only outcome of what I do here. And that's why I would say lead measure and the lag measure is about what is influencing and what is predictive on this. And that's where I say at the end of it, there are 5 metrics that you should measure whenever you're doing a sales. Okay, result is only outcome of effort. Effort has to be on quantity, quality, and direction of what you do. Okay, so direction of efforts that you do. If you want to get that result, the first thing which you need to do is how many number of visits, how many calls that I do, how many interactions that are done in a particular period is what I have to measure very clearly. Last quarter, I did for 50 calls. This quarter, I need to do 60 calls. Am I able to measure number of visits, calls, and interaction then? Third one is, can I do something to increase the conversion rate? How much is my conversion rate? Opportunity was there, qualification was there, conversion was not there. Then where is that I'm missing and what should I do to improve the conversion rate? And the third thing, all of Peter Druff said a wonderful statement saying that create a customer and keep the customer. I would say create the customer and create a repeat business from the customer there. And that is how much is I'm able to get the repeat business from the customer. That means what? I made a sale, but he is not going to buy for next 1 year, next 2 years. I think there is something in my relationship which I have not done well. So that is why it is affecting. So you might have to build up your relationship building tactics on that. And the fourth thing, I always say, every month at the end of the 30th, at the end of any day, you must plan how much new customer you're going to meet, how much existing customer you're going to meet. Okay? And then track this, because all of us as a salespeople, we are all very comfortable with the same customer, same product, same service. Our focus is on meeting of the existing customer. If at all, if you look at it, sales will only happen, business will flourish, you will flourish only when you get new customers there. And new customer getting is not easy because the prospecting is going to be a challenge. So many things are there. That's a mindset which is there. And that's why I would say one thing that you should measure is how many new customers that I have approached in this month will determine about your success in the organization. And the last one, which I say, as somebody said, telephoning, I would say anything to do a lead generation activity, how much time I am investing for lead generation activity is what we are going to do. And is that is what is the 5 metrics that you should measure, and that's where we come to the almost the end of thing. But let me give you something about this. What is the growth aspire? We have an organization. We help salespeople to improve meet their growth aspiration. How can we help you on this? We can help you on 3 ways. One is B2B sales team effectiveness. If you have a team of salespeople in your organization, we would like to work with you. We would like to customize the entire approach and help you improve the sales team effectiveness. We also do one-on-one performance coaching. That is one person, if you want to improve, you want to meet your growth aspirations, and somewhere you feel you're stuck, we would like to help you on one-on-one by giving a high-performance coaching. And the third one is, we also offer online group training for the individuals who are working on this. If there are 10 people who are from different countries, different cities, they can come on an online group, and that's how these 3 ways which we do: B2B, customized solution, one-on-one, and online group training is what we do on this. And we want you to become a high-performing sales champion by sharing new insights and new perspective. That's what is our growth aspect. As I said, my colleague Prashant is also there. I am also there. You can contact any one of us, and then we will take. We have another 10-12 minutes there. We can take your questions. Anyone who wants to ask any question, you can say. Prashant, if I missed something, I would be very happy if you could add something more perspective on this.
Yeah, I think most of the things got covered. So I think one question is, can we have a PPT? Sure, we will try to arrange to send the PPTs. So if you can just drop a mail, or we will send you the PPT or the PDF file for sure.
Yeah.
So also what we want to know is if there are any other topics you really want us to cover. So we would be happy to know if some topics. So please do let us know any topics you want to cover in our future upcoming webinars. So there is one question which from Hitesh, which is like, well, I think Umesh has asked, what is the best methodology in order to avoid duplication of data? I think.
Yes, go ahead, Prashant.
Yeah, Umesh, I think one fact is, again, so how is this duplication of data is happening? We need to see if there are a single sales call is being handled by multiple people. So then there is a chance that of duplication can happen. But if the same person is doing a duplication, my understanding of duplication of data is something like a same prospect is being handled by 2-3 people. So if that is happening, I think during the weekly meetings, a review of the sales pipeline can help actually. So because the sales pipeline, it needs to be completely flushed every week. It needs to be made sure that things are in proper order. So, and keep giving this awareness to people that how to maintain this. So this is one way most companies are doing. So if there is any other thing, Krishna, can you suggest like?
No, I think, as I say, if you are in a sales organization, I think it's important to build up a trust with your team members. And the moment you get an inquiry, one simple method is to put a post to everybody and say, I'm handling this inquiry. So that avoids everything on that. So before doing that, check whether somebody has interacted with anybody in that customer or something. If there is nobody, then it's a new inquiry for you. You can put a post to everybody and say, I'm handling this inquiry. That's simple. So nobody will do that. Okay. In fact, you can also send the moment if the organization is able to see everybody's data, Then you put it immediately, the inquiry comes, you put it into the dashboard, people are accessible and say, yes, this inquiry is handled by you. That's how I would say how to do avoid the duplication. Okay. Uh, there is somebody who has asked email marketing, how relevant it is. Would you like to say something on this, Prashant?
Yeah, I think see, it's all everything is relevant based on how where is your client. If your client is online and if you can reach them through
Yeah.
email, then obviously when it comes to prospecting, because any sale starts with prospecting. How do
Yep.
you fix an appointment? Now, to fix an appointment, email marketing is definitely useful. So we also now LinkedIn is something which is being used actually. So there is a social selling is where you are using multiple ways to get the prospects. So now what generally happens typically is email marketing means there is a marketing team which is doing in big organizations, and the sales team is only doing the sales call. But if you are a small sales team, or if you are somebody where there is no significant marketing team exists, I think this is a role even a salespeople have to do. Yeah, how do they really take their emails and how do they continue to engage with prospects? So it works, email marketing works, but it depends on how accessible your buyer is through this channel. So it is a test, and you have to test, you have to send few things to figure out, share some value, and then try to see if people are really responding. Okay, I hope this answers Hitesh.
Yeah, I think adding to that, he can also use LinkedIn for connecting to people and getting access to them. That's one more method that you can use. Okay, there is one question which has come from Hitesh twice. So one, Hitesh, one is that as a product and the solution selling are different, and the second one is solution selling as some process or is different. So let's understand this first of all, it's a good question. Let's understand this in a different perspective. One is what we call it as a need selling and a solution selling. What is need selling? The customer is very clear about what he requires. Or when you give a product which exactly matches to his needs, that's need selling. But you have a product, but the customer wants a slight modification. Okay, that means some kind of solutioning you are working on it. But he says completely modification has to happen. Yes, there is some base which is kept, but the complete modification which is required to suit to him, because he has a problem there and you're making a modification, then possibly you are doing a solution selling there. So that's where I say the difference is in the solution selling, both of us don't know what is the final solution which is going to come. Both of us are evolving over a period of time. That's where it works out of that. Okay. Um, One which I request is we have another 5 minutes. We can definitely take questions. We would be very happy if you could put one feedback how this session was. Okay, whatever feedback you give, it would be very interesting to us. And please tell us in case if you want some other topics to be covered in next time. We would like to cover that topic. Okay. Yes.
Okay, I think I think we are almost end of the session. So
Yeah.
thanks everyone for joining. So it's been a wonderful time. So we really appreciate your presence. We look forward to more such webinars where more participation is there and we can share and learn. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for all of you. We'll build a community of this and then we keep inviting you for the next webinars. We want to help salespeople to meet their growth aspirations. Thank you so much for joining this session and have a wonderful evening. Take care. Yeah. One question from Gaurav. Is that? No. Thank you so much. Okay. Anything else is there? Yeah. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. Wonderful. Thank you.